Hello, I'm Professor John Benjamin, and this is Motion Graphics Lesson 3, and today we'll talk about organizational techniques in After Effects and typography. So I'm going to start with the project that we left off on last time. If you don't have it, that's fine. Just type the word hello and we'll go from there, no big deal. But what I want to show you is, so here we have hello, and then I want to say my name is John. So I need to get rid of hello. Right? And one of the tricks that I'm going to show you here is how to cut off a group of objects all at the same time. Right, so I'm going to select this first H here, the time bar for H. I'm going to hold my Shift key down and select the O, so they're all selected. I can also hit Command A or Alt A on a PC. But you need everything to be selected. And the next key I'm going to show you, now on my Mac, it's Option and bracket, or right bracket I should say, because you can do left bracket as well, which does that. Let me undo to do that. Now honestly I don't know what the equivalent of the Option key is on the PC, so just hit Alt Control or the Windows key and then the right bracket, and one of them should do it. And so you can see what it nicely does there for you is it just eliminates them all together, cuts them off all evenly. And remember I for in, whatever you have selected, and out. Okay, so now I can go ahead and add the other text because hello isn't taking up the whole stage. All right, so I'm going to just put in 3 words. I'm going to go to my type tool, hello, and I'm going to say my. That's a little large, so I'm going to take that down to, let's say, 250. All right, my. I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, Command D. All right, and I want them to come in just like we did. We'll stair step those in. All right, so once again, I want to put them in kind of in the order. I'm going to stack them hierarchically. So my name is John. Okay. All right, and so I want those to come in right after the first text leaves. So I'll put a little space in there. So I can go ahead and hold the Shift key down and select them all and hit my Option and left bracket. And so that way, now we've got hello ends, there's a space, and then my name is John comes in. And then I can go ahead and I can stagger those like so. All right, great. So now one of the things that we're running into now is we only got very few objects really here. And you can already see our timeline is really filling up. So as you add more scenes and more footage and more text or objects, whatever it will, it's going to start to grow and grow and grow this timeline. So I'm going to show you 3 techniques for organization that'll help you keep all of this straight. Okay, so the first one is the little show and hide layer on your timeline. So there's this little meme guy here. And what I want to do is, let's say I want to just work on the new one. My name is John, and I don't want to see this. This one's done, so we can hide it for a while. All right, so how we're going to do that is, first we're going to go ahead and turn off the little meme fellow there on each of those. And then when he's turned off, well, I don't know what his gender is, when they are turned off, and then we come up here to the little hide layers shy switch, you can see that they go away. All right, so anything that the little meme person is turned off will then vanish. So now you can have a lot more workspace. You're done with that, you can move it over, and then you just have to turn on that switch to turn them on or off. Now the other thing is, if I have them off, but you can still see them, and now typically that's what you'll want. But occasionally, if the stage gets a little messy, you can go ahead and turn off the eyeball here. So we can go ahead and turn off HELLO, and then turn off the memes. So they're gone from the timeline, and they're gone from the layer as well. So that way, if they get in the way, we can just kind of forget about them and just sort of focus on the next scene. Okay, so that's the first way of doing organization. It's using the little eyes and the little shy switch. Okay, and that'll get you only so far. As things grow and get bigger and bigger, you're going to need to find new ways to sort of compartmentalize and organize this. And the easiest way, and I'd say the best way, is to create what's called a precomp. So now right here we have a composition. You can create multiple compositions, and then you can put your scenes on that composition. So first let me just show you how that works. So this one's called MG Color and Blur. All right, so let's say I want to make another one. I'm just going to create a new composition here, and it's going to give me the same composition dialog box as before. And so today I'm going to talk about type and organization. So I'll just type, and I'm just going to hit OK. And let's say I want a main comp. Now we haven't done this before, but that's typically what you want to do. So I'm going to go ahead now here and create a main comp. That's going to be where I'm going to assemble all of my other footage. Okay, I've got main comp, MG color, and type and organization. Okay, so now if these get too many compositions, you're going to want to organize them with folders. So click the new folder, and I'm just going to call this compositions. And then I'm going to go ahead and move all of these comps in there. Now that's fine because, again, I'm going to add graphics later, I'm going to add sound, and I'm going to add videos possibly. And so we want different folders for all of those. Okay, so now I can open this up, and I can double-click on main comp. And what I want to do is I want to put my color and blur on the main comp. So I can just drag it down here, and there it is. And I can just sort of, there's the whole thing. And it's just this one bar. And you can add effects and attributes to that whole composition if you want. You could rotate it and do lots of different things. But typically it's just to keep things organized. And so let's say I have these two scenes here, and then I can just cut them off here at 4 seconds. And then I can add my next composition, which is type and organization. I'll put that down here. And I can go ahead and slice it that way. So we have scene 1, and then scene 2 is here. All right, so there's 2 compositions. And they're all located on the main comp. So again, here's the main comp, and I can navigate them down here as well. So you can see here's type and organization, here's main comp, and here's MG color and blur. So if I'm on the main comp and I want to make edits to MG color and blur, I just go ahead and double click on it. And then I'm back here, and I can make whatever edits I want. And let's say, for instance, I want to change the color of my here to something else, like blue. I changed it in the comp, and it's automatically changed in the main comp. Right? It's just a link, if you will. All right, so that's really the third and best way to do that. Now, what if you started to make a mess, and let's say in here you've gotten too many, and in this case, I really want to break up hello and my name is John into 2 scenes. So that's what we call a precomp. So I'm going to go ahead and select this group right here, my name is John, and just right-click and say Precompose. And I want to call this something that you know what it's. So I'll just call it my name is. Something intuitive. All right, and there it is. It's a precomp. And now I'll do the same thing here. Okay, and that one is hello. Great. Now those 2 precomps are still on the MG color and blur, but you'll notice their precomps are really just a composition because it put them in here. I've got my name is and hello now, and you can change the order of these if you want. So that's all precomps are. They're just compositions. You just sort of made them in process, if you will. All right. So again, just to go over those, you've got your shy hide, you've got your eye that you can turn on and off, and then you've got compositions that you can assemble in one main composition. And that's typically what we want to do. All right. So the next thing I want to do, let's go to type and organization, this comp right here. I'm going to double click. There's nothing in here. And so I'm going to go and put some text in here. And I'm just going to say, what would be the next thing? Hello, my name is John. What's your name? All right. Okay, and I want to center that. So I'm going to come over here to my character panel, and I'm going to go down to the next one, paragraph, and then I'm going to choose center. So my text is centered. So one exclamation or a question mark there too. All right, and now again, let's go back to our main comp just to see what's going on here. And what's your name is here. This is our type and organization layer. And there it is. So hello, my name is John. What's your name? And I can just double click on that to come back here and change effects. So you can already see how important it is to create, oops, didn't mean to do that, compositions. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a moment to talk a little bit about typography. So typography, like color, like sound, comes with different connotations. So a denotation is a literal form of something. So let's say the word hello in Helvetica. It's just, that's the literal information there. It's a greeting. But connotations are sort of these impressions that we as an audience bring to how we decode the information that you've encoded. And so when we're talking about typography, it can be coded with information based on its shape. So it's very important that you select the shape of the typography, or what's also called the typeface, that in a way that suits what you're trying to convey or what you're trying to talk about. All right, so let's just take a look and see how it is. So what is your name? This seems like a very sort of almost clinical greeting. It's very generic. It could be anything. And I've chosen what's called a sans serif typeface. That's French for no serif. And that's something like Avenir here or Helvetica. So that's a sans serif typeface. So if we go back to character and we can choose a typical serif typeface like Baskerville, already you can see that what is your name connotes something very different. This is more literary, if you will, because most literature that we read in books and whatnot is in a serif typeface. It has these little serifs like this. And these make it easier to read running text. So it's not very often that we'll have a Helvetica, an Avenir, or an Arial for running text in a book. So this, just as a general audience, this connotes something that maybe is a little bit more literary. Again, going back to Helvetica or Avenir, let me go to Helvetica. It's very similar to Avenir. Now, Helvetica is one of the most widely used typefaces, and it's used because of its clarity. So now I just mentioned that serif typeface is easy to read in running text, like in a book, but sans serif type, like Helvetica, is actually easier to read in a big title or in a sign. So most of the signs in the United States and in Europe are created in Helvetica because it has that great, easy readability. We can just read it very easily. And so you want to think about that. So what does Helvetica connote? Well, it connotes something sort of generic, something like a regular street sign. And so you want to be mindful about reasons to choose a serif or a sans serif. So now we can take that to one more level. I can use a squared off sans serif typeface like Eurostyle. And this is a square sans serif typeface. And it has a connotation that might be a little bit more technical, a little bit more boxy, so that could be something a little bit more digital. You can do something like, that's like a typewriter. You can use a monotypeface like Courier. And that's indicative of old typewriters. So you want to get even more sort of, again, generic, but you're connoting that you're talking about something that from an old typewriter. So those are the two big categories, serif and sans serif. But there are many other qualities to typefaces that you want to be mindful of when you're selecting it. Don't just select any typeface. And particularly with kinetic type, larger, thicker typefaces can be a little bit more readable because they're moving around so much. It's something to think about. But in the case of, let's say, movie titles, sometimes you want to be very elegant and have a thin weight typeface. Sometimes you want to be a little bit more forceful and have a heavyweight typeface. Sometimes you might want to be a little bit more something elegant or literature. Like, for instance, now Vogue magazine uses Bodoni. And so if we choose Bodoni, which is a modern typeface, there's a bit more of elegance and sophistication to that. That's not just literary. It takes it to another level. And this all comes from society, the things that you've been exposed to as a person or society has. And so we connect or make connections with the shape of the letter forms, and that's called coding. So we can encode into our type choices a feeling or a mood or an impression that we want to convey to our audience. So you want to be very, very careful and be very mindful. Now the last typeface that I'm going to go over here is what we simply call display typefaces. These are really to be avoided, but they can have great connotation. Like this one right here, this is called brim narrow. This has a sort of a woodcut feel. A lot of typefaces that were cut into wood to save time or to fill in, they'd have these little grooves. So that's really important. But you probably wouldn't want to use this typeface for your entire motion graphic. You might want to use it to just say one thing, maybe one certain title. So you really want to be very careful. You wouldn't want to do your whole motion graphic in what's referred to as a display typeface, or also as a decorative typeface. So let's pick something else out here that's a little bit weird. Oh, here, this is a good one. Black oak. All right, this is a very Western style typeface. You know, you can see like bullet holes around it. It's very hard to read though. Most decorative or display typefaces are very hard to read, and so you need to be really careful about that. If your audience can't read your message, then it doesn't matter how beautiful it is. I said that was the last one, but one more quick one is let's just talk about the handwritten typefaces. All right, here's Chalk Duster. All right, so Chalk Duster again, what does it connote? A chalkboard, so it looks like that. So you want to use these if that's what you're trying to convey. Like this is really friendly and handwritten, like I wrote you a note. But you wouldn't just choose it because you thought it looked great or it looked cool. You always want to have a reason behind it because your client's going to ask you, like, why did you choose that typeface? That's very interesting. And if you just say, I like it, then you've completely lost a lot of credibility there. Okay, so that's all for today's lesson, and good luck with your assignment.